Demographics or demonographic. This episode has been suggested for mature audiences only. Demographics. That was new when I was a child, and believe me, every child was interested. Advertising to your intended buyers has always been the smart thing to do. Buy into normal facts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste not, want not. In my backyard, this was their brain on drugs. Any questions will land you on a terror watch list, you pinko commie. What if after Armageddon, the wolves in sheep's clothing were aggressive? Going forward in this episode, we'll look at some older churches, some schisms, and let's say that I'm absolutely correct and the Lord, the mud flood was Armageddon, flat earth nation, golden age past, and the sheep, the wolves in sheep's clothing were aggressive. They came out like the Roman Catholics with their Inquisition acting all high and mighty, saying, well, we want to know if you're really doing it right because we're over here and we're doing it right. And we want to know you are. What do you think about this, that, and the other thing? I had a busy day today. Hola, Zach Mack. Where are you applying for jobs? They are looking for workers in Alamosa, man. Everywhere. I don't know what kind of work you do. Good to see you here, though, man. Disclaimered, we're going to be showing some other people's videos, but I'm going to be coming at it from a biblical point of view. There's a card code inside of Grace Gym. Isn't that, I wonder who that was named after. Honesty, respect, responsibility, citizenship, education, sportsmanship, forgiveness. Is that what it says? Start an epidemic. I think it says. Well, I got it later. There it is. Man, I've been on that stage many times. This is the school I told you that I was the athletic director of. And this is a scene from a movie that was filmed there called Lucas. Had a bunch of up and coming actors at the time. Corey Haim, Winona Ryder, Charlie Sheen, all the ones who got the MK Ultra, they were groomed. I changed these colors to blue. In the 41 sections of his letter, he also speaks of privileges granted by the emperors, quoting from the donation of Constantine, which he believed to be genuine. 1054. That's an important number, an important year. It's important for today, for now. There's nothing to see here. This was part of the gift of the. Here we're giving you Constantinople in 330. 33-0 moved the imperial capital to Byzantium, which later became Constantinople, which Byzantium is what the Greeks called themselves after Armageddon. See, I did this for my brother. The center of gravity was the whole church. The center of gravity in the empire was fully recognized to have completely shifted to the Eastern Mediterranean. Well, man, that sounds like a great schism. Yep, that's what we're going to look at. And their goal, the church is the image of the Trinity and reflects the reality of the incarnation. So I'm saying, come with me now. These guys are all wrong. We have to look at the Bible again. The mainstream churches, they got to jump on the mud flood was Armageddon Express. Do you know who that was? There's your thumbnail. You should be able to recognize a few people in here besides Bill Clinton. This guy, look at that American guy. Some people think that he was kind of too patriotic to work for the Democratic National Convention, and he might have leaked some papers that this is Seth Rich. He got murdered. People think that he's on the Clinton hit list. In my religious world, nothing would surprise me because there's too many coinkydinks on that hit list. So many, as many as the JFK hit list. You know, I usually like to watch an old movie and see who shakes hands like this today. Who was taught to shake hands? When you shake hands like a limp fish. Who does that? No man I know. Disease spread in the wake of flood. Dang, I think that was supposed to be the thumbnail. Because, you know, after these floods and everything that are happening now and are going to spread, and the funguses that, you know, we're at war. If you don't think we're at war, oh, man. Look, his mom's carrying the babies. That's from last night. Hey, cool, man. Is 11 Mile Reservoir, is that near Ridgeway? Montrose? That'd be cool. That's a good job, man. What am I doing? Let's get rid of that thing and go.
The circumference of that circle is equal to the perimeter of that perfect square.
Wow.
So there's, in addition to being connected by these ceremonial avenues, there's a connection in terms of the geometry. What about the others? Well, the area of that perfect square is equal to the area of...
I used to have some genes like that. They're for walking through thorny bushes or horse riding through them too.
That perfect circle.
Wow.
That's the observatory circle.
Hey, there's that number. 1054.
That's 1,054 feet in diameter. That measure, which we call the OCD, and in this case it stands for observatory circle diameter, shows up over and over again in Hopewell architecture throughout central and southern Ohio as well. In fact, of the 8 sites that make up the Hopewell Ceremonial Earthworks UNESCO World Heritage Site, all but one of them incorporate either 1,054 feet or half of it or a quarter of it somewhere in their architecture. And in fact, the distance from the center of that circle to the center of that circle is exactly 6 times that diameter.
Really?
And the distance from the center of the octagon to the center of the square is also 6 times the diameter of that circle. What about the octagon? The octagon you could put 4 Roman Colosseums just in the octagon. That's how huge that is.
Wow.
So it's bigger than any of these. But if you draw a square inside it, drawing from alternate corners there, the sides of that square are equal to the diameter of that circle.
Wow.
And the area of that hidden square is equal to the area of the great circle. More deeply hidden geometrical connection.
Wow.
And I think that must have had some significance. I mean, in the same
You
way that the
think-
Pythagoreans were thinking like geometry is discovering the mind of God or something, these people aren't Pythagoreans, but they're coming to the same conclusion, working on the same problems, working on how to square circles and things like that.
The fact that the Hopewell
Now here's your disclaimer. He's gonna say a oopsie.
builders were not only able to figure out this level of complex geometry, but figure it out on this scale is just amazing to me. I'm not a big math guy. In fact, I loathe math. I resent the very existence of math. But even I, a certified math hater, am absolutely blown away by the fact that they figured out how to do correlating areas not only with the same shape, but with like different shapes having the same area across really vast spaces. That's just incredible. I can't do that. Now, interestingly, some of this geometry was actually noticed as early as when Squire and Davis made their map back in the 1800s. As I talked about in my last video, much of what we know about this site is because of the Squire and Davis map. It was published in the very first publication of the Smithsonian Institute and recorded
The very first publication. It's got to mean something.
much of this site before it was destroyed by the city of Newark. And part of the inspiration for Squire and Davis making this map is because they saw how rapidly this site was being destroyed.
What'd they
With some
say?
of the most impressive features, like the Cherry Valley Ellipse, which was a massive burial complex, being completely leveled by the Ohio Railroad and the industrial site that developed around it. Again, if you want to learn a little more about how horrifying that story is, you can watch that video after this one. But even Squire and Davis in the 1800s made note of that octagon, what was it? Observatory circle diameter, the OCD. It's fascinating that 1054 number shows up over and over again at different Hopewell sites.
So he's saying, oh, the number doesn't show up. Those people, didn't even know what a foot was. They don't think it held any significance. Well, the cubit, the foot, the meter, they are everywhere in ancient geometry, spread over this flat earth. But
Defense of how wrong this is. This incredibly harmful misinformation and misunderstanding of indigenous people is the result of propaganda. Propaganda that has gone on for so many hundreds of years that it has reached like the absurdity event horizon. And so this is why I believe it is so crucial to teach about these sites and to look at real instances of sacred geometry and astronomy and massive constructions like potentially a 60-mile road leading between 2 enormous sites. It's important for us to try and understand.
So what's going to be our takeaway when we hear about the people like, oh, it was 2 mules and the horse and buggy built it. We can't even think that way. We have to know they're lying. We can't just be like, oh my goodness. Like today, and this will be my political thing. I know a lot of people are mad at the immigrants, but we were immigrants that broke 510 treaties, documented treaties after the reset, where we promised them one thing and we didn't deliver because we knew it was going to end up like this. And then you can always get people, well, your mom and dad lived here and you lived here. This is your country. There's no right or wrong in this. There is narrow road and there is wide road. This is your home and you're comfortable with trying to make it better, or it's going to burn. It's going down, doobie doo, down, down. No comas left.
And generated conspiracy theories that the exercise was a a hostile military takeover. The conspiracy theories seem to emanate from the map shown here from the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, which divides the region into 4 colors, with 2 hostile states, 2 permissive states, 2 states leaning one way or the other, and California.
Look at that red part right there. That's the Gadsden Purchase. That must be something in dispute still. Part 2, 80 conspiracies or something like that. Part 2, you've heard of them all. Go. Oh, hit play and go.
Microplastics will end humanity. Microplastics are fragments of any type of rats. Staring control. The average American spends over 7 hours a day staring at some sort of electronic screen. Now that's just the United States. Now imagine how many hours combined globally, whether that be a new tick or events that will occur in the future. Some provide evidence including 9/11 predictions and cartoons. R&B duo from Munich. They became one of the most popular pop acts in the late 1980s and early 1990s, with millions of records sold. However, their success turned to infamy when it was discovered that Morvan and Pilatus did not sing any of the vocals on their music releases. They even ended up returning their Grammy Award for the Best New Artist, and they could have almost gotten away with it if it wasn't for that mishap. Imagine how easy
if it wasn't for those darn kids.
Obama deception by Alex Jones, which alleged that Obama's administration was a puppet government for a wealthy ridiculous way. Well, this may not have been by chance. According to some, the meat industry puts out propaganda to make vegans and vegetarians look crazy, theorizing that PETA was started by the meat industry to control the narrative by portraying vegans as extremists, as it sometimes seems like PETA does more damage to their image than build up.
It seems like every time PETA talks, it makes people that, anything to do with ethical treatment.
Late-stage cervical cancer. While treating Ramirez, several hospital workers fainted and others experienced symptoms such as shortness of breath and muscle spasms. 5 workers required hospitalization, one of whom remained with a blade and a gas mask. They have been interpreted in the past by onlookers to represent war, hope, and caring whether it contains something as dangerous as heavy metals or not. Overall, prioritizing revenue. Well, this one's almost 100% true. It's recently been proven that the most popular baby foods on the market all contain high levels of toxic. Human foreigners were forced from the increasingly shrinking tropical canopy into search of new food sources. He believed that they would have been following large herds of wild cattle, whose dung harbored the insects that he proposed were undoubtedly part of their new diet, and would have spotted and started eating.
Okay, the stoned ape from the beginning. Go.
Stoned ape. The stoned ape theory hypothesizes
maybe you
that the
haven't
reason
heard
why
them
the
all.
human species has evolved to the point that we're at now is because of hallucinogenic mushrooms. In his 1992 book, Food of the Gods, McKenna proposed that the transformation from humans' early ancestors, Homo erectus.
Now, here you go. I don't know what other people think. I'm not trying to convince anybody I'm the end time prophet. That's what I know. And I talk and I do this show, and that's the way it is going to be. The newest information in the conspiracy world was brought through this ministry. The things that people hold dear, that Jesus told the truth. He came back in that generation, that the stones were crying out. I know that was Do-Re, my ministry. Do-Re, me. The Lord is using this ministry. And I don't care if there's 5 people here and 500 people somewhere else. It's the people that have ever heard this message. They're going to one day wonder, where did I hear it? Why did I hold it so dear? And why didn't I care about anything else the guy said? It has to be the Trinity, because I'm doing everything they do. I'm saying everything they say, except I don't love the Trinity. And, oh yeah, the other thing, when we go back to the stoned apes, I was doing mushrooms or LSD when the Lord, Abba, showed me, hey, you're my guy. That was 50 years ago, 45 years ago. And mushrooms are a part of this history. Whether those guys that think, I don't smoke pot, I don't do mushrooms, I don't smoke, I don't chew. And I don't know why my wife used to date the guys that do. It's something like that.
Erectus to the species Homo sapiens mainly had to do with the addition of the mushroom psilocybe, consistent in the diets, an event that, according to this theory, took place in about 100,000 BCE. McKenna based this theory on the main effects or alleged effects produced by the mushroom. McKenna stated that due to the desertification of the African continent at the time, human foreigners were forced from the increasingly shrinking tropical canopy into search of new food sources. He believed that they would have been following large herds of wild cattle, whose dung harbored the insects that he proposed were undoubtedly part of their new diet, and would have spotted and started eating Psilocybe subensis, a dung-loving mushroom often found growing out of cowpats. This caused the individuals who were consuming psilocybin mushrooms to be better hunters than those who were not, resulting in an increased food supply and in turn higher rates of reproductive success.
So this is just like what this is about. This is only part two. All of the obscure theories. That's one, there's something to psilocybes. It's the opposite what of Clown Boy Paul Stoops wants you to believe that, oh, if you do it, you're inviting a demon clown. That's stupid.
Like Google and Facebook. And by the internet communications, they mean your personal everyday chats that you have with friends and family, among other things. The NSA can use these PRISM requests to target communications that are encrypted when they travel across the internet's backbone. Its existence was leaked 6 years later by NSA contractor and whistleblower Edward Snowden, who warned that the extent of mass data collection was far greater than fake animal rescue channels. This theory states that those often viral animal rescue videos are most likely staged, and that channel potential problems of causality, the relationship between cause and effect. The classic example of a problem involving causality is the grandfather paradox, which involves traveling to the past and ending your grandfather's life. This would mean that your father or your mother wouldn't be born, meaning that you wouldn't have been born either. Those interesting red rooms you heard about won't unlock if you pay them 5 bitcoins, and no, the website you tried to access to order an atomic bomb isn't gonna work. You're probably on some type of list now. Me equals bugs. This is referring to the theory that the government or the powers that be are trying to accustom us to eat bugs, and that the final solution and prehistoric times. Proponents suggest that this contact influenced the development of modern cultures, technologies, religions, and human biology. A common position is that deities for most, if not all religions, are extraterrestrial in origin, and that advanced doesn't exactly mean the same thing. See, their symbol is called the Risen Identification Code, and there's 7 of them, although only 2 of the 7 codes means that they are recyclable, but all of them carry the same logo, tricking consumers into thinking that all their containers are environmentally friendly. There's also a limit on how many times a plastic can be recycled. Only a few cultures, some Indo-European, Egyptian, and Mesoamerican, developed their own solar religions, and some believe that its aspects were integrated into Catholicism and Christianity as a whole, explaining why we see tons of sun imagery in old Christian art of species around it. Yeah, this theory is rather creepy. It states that a superplant apocalypse is possible due to a certain crop killing ecosystems, other varieties of vegetation, and eventually causing mass starvation due to it being a single crop.
Wow, that's kind of what China is going to do to us.
No other nutritional benefit. This would also go through
because this is God's judgment. We deserve it. Don't try to fight it.
The food chain, meaning that animals would suffer from this as well. The Bored Ape Conspiracy. Bored Ape Yacht Club, BAYC, or often called Bored Ape, is a non-fungible token NFT collection built on the water is poison. This entry could have several interpretations. One theory puts forth the idea may have been composed in Italy during the Italian Renaissance. However, despite
I decoded this when I did my second vision, or when I had my second vision, and the problem that people have is they try to put this. Where is this? This is in the body. They're showing the plant life and the world in the body is the only obvious answer. Sound, go.
Ambiguously unknown. Some of the redemption movement is a debt-resistant movement which is primarily active in the United States and Canada. Participants allege that a secret fund is created for every citizen at birth, and that a procedure exists to redeem or reclaim this fund to pay bills. Flying rays. On December 3rd, 2004 in Mason County, witnesses reported seeing a flying manta ray. On a clear night after a man and a woman departed Point Pleasant, the woman noticed a sudden movement in the website or app more popping than it actually is. Take for example the whole Twitter fiasco. The Pew Research Center estimates that 2/3 of all Twitter links are posted by bot accounts, not humans, and that automated companies and government union suppression. If you don't know, a labor union is an organization of workers who work on maintaining or improving work conditions. They strive to defend and be the voice of the everyday worker.
Commies. Communist is what they were. That's what they called my dad. If you were for unions, you were a communist.
By arguing for better wages and benefits. This theory states that governments and companies don't benefit from unions at all, so they intentionally suppress their popularity and the fact that it's completely legal to have. Take for example the Amazon purposely gets sick, which is rather dark, as HIV can lead to AIDS, which is a life-changing disease. There are some explanations for the behavior, ranging from sexual excitement at the idea of HIV positive status, to finding a shared sense of community with other HIV positive people, to being suicidal. By 2003, the concept had entered the public consciousness, trying to avoid the butterfly effect. But every time they've been caught on camera or crash landed, they subtly purposeful crazy misinformation. This entry puts forth the idea that the powers that be put out crazy conspiracy theories in order to delegitimize the ones that are potentially real. Such accusations have been around at least since the 1990s, when a pseudo-documentary film called The Clinton's Chronicles, produced by Larry Nicholas and promoted by Reverend Jerry Falwell, accused Bill Clinton of multiple crimes including murder. One example is the murder of Seth Rich, which occurred on July 10, 2016 at 4:20 a.m. in the Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Rich died about an hour and a half after being shot twice in the back. He was murdered by an unknown perpetrator for unknown reasons, but police suspected that he had been the victim of an attempted robbery. The 27-year-old Rich was an employee of the Democratic National Committee, and his murder spawned several conspiracy theories, claiming that Rich had been involved with the leaked DNC emails in 2016. Theory of femininity. Though this is disputed, the term scum appeared on the cover of the first edition of Olympia Press as SCUM, and it was said to stand for Society for Cutting Up Men. Solonas objected though, insisting that it was not an acronym, although the expanded term appeared in a Village Voice ad she had written in 1967. The manifesto was little known until Solonas attempted to murder Andy Warhol in 1968, going into Andy Warhol's art studio and shooting him. This event brought significant public attention to the manifesto and Solonas herself. Some believe that the whole crazy SJW feminist movement was proof that a group of women were taking action and fulfilling what the book wanted. Fruit Machine, aka Gaydar. This one's actually got to post videos on, when he was completely banned from YouTube and other social medias. As for BitChute, they have a more relaxed policy compared to YouTube. You could find tons of flat earth and spaces fake videos on there. There's little to no regulation, most likely explaining its entry. Medical miracles. Although the term can have different definitions, a medical miracle generally refers to an blood work. Yoga is a New World Order ritual. This entry is basically subversive, including feminist organizations, the Communist Party USA, anti-Vietnam War organizers, activists of the civil rights movements, and Black Power movements, like Martin Luther King, the Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party. The FBI has used covert operations against domestic political groups since its from the bridge have been reported, with the incident often resulting in serious injury. The internet started to take notice. Eventually, a small community on Reddit formed to investigate the channel. Speculation as to what the channel might be used for includes it being used to test against the copyright system on YouTube to see how and why it's triggered. A piece of evidence could be in the title of the channel. The logo carries a semicircle in the middle and a circle around that. Thoughts and feelings. Research shows that sleep helps store memories better. If you learn new imaging correlation studies cannot determine whether neural activity. Monument's creators believed that there was going to be an up-and-coming social, nuclear, or economic calamity, and they wanted the monument to serve as a region into 4 colors, with 2 hostile states, 2 permissive states, 2 states leaning one way or the other, and California divided. Jim Shea wrote that the conspiracy theories included a psychological operation aimed at getting people used to seeing military forces on the streets, so
on the set of what would come to be his breakout performance, the title role in 1986's Lucas, where he plays an advanced placement high school student handicapped by physical frailty and social awkwardness. His adeptness at puppy-like expressions added depth and substance to the character's vulnerability beyond the 80s trope of thick-framed glasses. During filming, Corey became infatuated with co-star Cary Green, who played his romantic interest.
Yeah. This is one of the guys that got, I guess Charlie Sheen was into, I heard that he raped this young man. That's what I heard. It was at Christian Liberty, Arlington Heights. They were circling Christian Liberty. I showed that picture earlier of the gym that I used to be the athletic director of. They were filming this movie. Now, I've told you before, we were a small church set up by the John Birch Society and the Jesuits, the Rosicrucians. They were all working together so that we could supply the world. We were the world's largest supplier of homeschooling books. And I'm all for homeschooling unless you're going to brainwash the children that Manifest Destiny was true, that the United States was God-given light on the hill, that, well, we had to break those treaties because the end justifies the means. There's no other way to look at it. And I have seen it through the whole thing. I became aware while I was at this school that they paid $2 million for the new carpeting and everything else right before they sold it to us for $1,510,000. It's all on the record. It's all documented. There's still asbestos in that building. It's the only one that when they checked it, they said, no, we don't have to do this one. Somebody already took it out. I took it out. It was always going to be like this. This was always going to happen. There was always going to be a narrow road of people that were going like, but he did mushrooms. Sorry, not sorry. Isn't that what they say? We have the comfort now, and the Holy Spirit is blessing your heart, knowing you're right. The mud flood was Armageddon. You're closer now to those streets of gold than you've ever been. And I was here. I recognized that these were the guys. They did it. We bought it. They gave us the school, purchased it. They closed the school and we bought it right after the movie. They were state champions doing everything. And well, it just did matter. We purchased it. We got it. We won. We took out a loan for an extra $10,000 because we had the inside scoop that Harper University had only secured a loan for $1.5 million because they thought they were on the inside track. Oh, no. According to Christian Liberty Academy Pastor Calvin Lindstrom, who was one of my starters on one of my best teams, who averaged like 87 points a game and never got to 100. So that's a lot of games in the 90s. Christian Liberty Academy owns both the former Arlington Heights High School building and the property, added that they opened up 18 months after it closed and it had been spruced up for the movie. It is a star for it, baby. The movie itself was a coming-of-age romantic sports thing that just turned into who's ever going to be a young person that gets used in the movies is going to be used in the movies. And there must have been a spirit, because there was a lot of shenanigans going on even when I was there. So that's a Starfort building, big smokestacks, steam boilers, 1905 or something. What's going on here?
Wake up, everybody. Welcome into Redacted on this, what did it say, Tuesday, June 10th. I'm Clayton.
Have been murdering civilians from that base for a decade.
You are exactly right. You're exactly right. I was having a conversation with a friend earlier today about the illegality of sending combat troops overseas without approval from Congress. And, you know, when you think about it, this is an impeachable offense that has been committed.
You think this is going to go away? I don't. I really don't. This is live.
Look at all the police on the gas. I'm not sure.
Put a curfew on them. Go home and lock down. That'll work. That'll work. They got it figured out now. Jeremiah 32, verse 34. They set up their abominations in the house that is called by my name for one reason, to defile it. And when they set up false Christian churches and claim that they're serving God, their intentions, they are wolves in sheep's clothing. They have a goal and they're going to see it through. Out of the prison house. Kelly. Okay. Prison confinement enclosure. 4 times, the court, the prison, they had made that house a prison. Now, Jeremiah's in his bonds. He's going to get thrown into the cistern. It's a lie. I'm not deserting to the Chaldeans, but Elijah would not listen to him and seized Jeremiah and brought him to the officials. And the officials were enraged at Jeremiah. They beat him and imprisoned him in the house of Jonathan, the secretary. For it had been made a prison. Now, how many times in Blood Flood world and in your studying and in history do we see something that, oh, this is a manor house. Now it's a prison. Now it's an insane asylum. Now it's a courthouse. I think that it's possible that that verse could be a situation where, it is more circumstantial evidence proof that they found these buildings and they used them also. And sorry, Jonathan, your secretary, you can still live there, but for now, it's a prison. What is the Great Schism? The East-West Great Schism. It's in the same year where those numbers were. I think they do that on purpose. The same thing. I'm leaning more and more. They set the United States up when they bought the Louisiana Purchase and take care of the Mississippi. Now you're the heroes and fake atomic bombs. And the United States said, sure, we'll do it. We're the heroes. all to get set up to come tumbling down now because China's already trying to sabotage our crops. And now with the rivers and the crops are going at the same time, I'm hungry already.
The last remaining locations where this was occurring, and over time it became apparent that the Atchafalaya River was trying to capture the Mississippi River, that the Mississippi would change its course and find a steeper alternate route to the sea.
The possibility of capture of the Mississippi by the Atchafalaya was very real and could just not be allowed to happen.
Because the Catholic New Orleans, who knows, maybe there's a secret treaty where that town has to stay open. They spent all of the money. We bankrupted this country in war and fixing the Mississippi.
New Orleans and all of the industrial complex below Baton Rouge would have been deprived of a fresh water supply and dependable access for ocean-going commerce, and the economic impacts would have been extremely severe.
Congress ordered the Corps to keep the Mississippi in its course.
The decision.
Now, how well has the government taken care of its big jobs in the past?
Decision to control flows at Old River was a major decision, and it required that you, in essence, take Mother Nature on.
Morganza was opened during the worst flood in a quarter century. The Bonnie Carey spillway was also opened. The Corps was successful in protecting every major city along the river.
Man, we have it made in the shade. Do people watch porn at work? I asked that question because I know now they have an AI personality. Said it's not uncommon. I guess 2/3 of the men and over a third of the women have viewed pornography in the last 3 months, based on not 1, 2, 3. I get it. They forcing it on you, but you got to fight it. You got to. I know there's a sin not unto death, but if you're making a habit of this, and if it's something you got to do every day, I got to clean the pipes or whatever the hell you're thinking. What is the East-West Schism? Also known as the Great Schism. It came in that same year. Breakdown of communication, do you think? Or was it those aggressive wolves in sheep's clothing? And here I think is a couple of wolves in sheep clothing that got together and came up with, a series of differences and disputes and then formally split. 54 years probably after that staggering fugitive-like remnant that survived Armageddon came out of the mountains saying, "Thank you, Father." And the wolves in sheep's clothing were waiting for them. And they were saying, "Do you believe this? Do you believe that? Do you believe this or the other thing? If not, we're going to excommunicate you." Basically, that's what happened. They fought for the Immaculate Conception. I showed you that screenshot earlier. The Immaculate Conception. This is a different topic. This concerns Mary. This article is about Mary, and it says that she was conceived in some people's theology free from sin. So I guess that means her mother Anne had to be born free from sin too. So this is a slippery slope, but there she is. That's their God. They think that's the Holy Spirit. That's got the stars on her head. That's just weird. What's with this kid? Keys to the kingdom. They're all about her. They're all about it. Don't believe it. Don't believe this. You ever heard? I mean, they teach this, that there's some intermediate state after physical death, and you can pay money and people can pray you out. They still believe in purgatory. The Christian doctrine, purgatory refers to the final cleansing. Okay. All right. So it started, then. So there's a picture of it. They're in purgatory. Limbo. Look at me. I'm teaching limbo. Not how to dance and shimmy underneath a pole, how to, accept the religion that's given to you. Because part of it sounds so good and you're scared to not believe it because they'll skin you alive. By reference to certain texts of scripture, speaks of the process as involving a cleansing fire. Well, where's the chapter and verse? States that the concept involves the idea of a purgatorial fire, which he suggests is expiatory and purifying, not punitive, like hellfire. No, it's kind of like, well, there's no purgatory, but there is a fire that doesn't hurt Christians. Ask Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Stupid. Okay, we got it, the Hagia Sophia. Here's the Byzantium. So they split off, and after Armageddon, they built this. Wrong. They found it, but it was the center of somebody that when they were working together, and there you go, there's your acanthus leaves, the types of capitals that are described in the Bible that Solomon bought. Wow, there are a lot of pictures for the Hagia Sophia. We got to get underground. Show us underground. Well, take your time. Show us the dome. It's a mosque now. It's always been here. It's going to be there. Underground. We got to show you the cisterns. You'd think they'd have some of the cisterns. There's some of that sacred math. Everybody that goes there says, I got to do a better job at making a picture. Well, that's a very small version. All right. We'll do a show about them now. What kind of religion's going to put this on somebody and say, this is what you have to do? You can't have a wife. What kind of stupidity? What type of nonsense? What type of pervert would be drawn to men that, say that and tell you they get it from the Bible? Only people who later are forced to believe that, well, these things, there were great kings, and Constantine the Great, supposedly he's the 1330 boy, right? He's the guy who did it. Let's make Christianity legal. I am the king of Rome. Sure. So he gives, now here you go. It's yours. And that's not the only one. This guy, Pippin the Short, he had some problems, man. You got to, he's 2 shows, 3 shows, if he's even real. But supposedly he did a donation, transfer of the French territory to Italy. Well, that didn't cause too many wars, did it? Napoleon much? He ended it with fighting with the Pope. First he won, then he lost, then he won, then he lost. Donations. Donation of Sutri. What did they get here? Agreement reached with this guy, the king of the Lombards. That's your Burgundies. By which the city and some of its towns were, hey, here you go. Here you go, Pope. We're giving you this as a gift to the blessed apostles Peter and Paul. Is that a star fort, baby? Of course it is. What else would it be? Where else would it be? Here you go, it's free. Gnosticism, Catharism. It says was a Christian quasi-dualist pseudo-Gnostic. Wow, denounced as heretical by those aggressive wolves in sheep clothing out trying to, kill people. They famous believe there were not one but 2 gods, the good God of heaven and the evil God of this age. Well, you can mince words because there's some people that could twist my words and make me say that, But these guys, I mean, does it mean you should rip their skin off and kill the women and children? Human, who they destroyed all their books. We only know what they say they believed. First mentioned it 4 years later, they denounced them. And then later they started killing them with inquisitions. It means good Christians. It's something that they call themselves. Suspects who were put to the question by the Inquisition, the term Cathar was not used among the group of accused heretics themselves. Oh, okay. The word Cathar is coined by Catholic theologians. And they were ripping their skin off. They were killing them. There's nothing good about their church. It's a den of thieves. And the Inquisition, how many sub-chapters of the only thing real is that the wolves in sheep clothing came out trying to act like, they were ruled with a rod of iron, so they had to act Christian, and they did. So they even had a cadaver synod. Not the Nicene Council or some of these other famous ones, but a synod for a trial that was conducted by a pope who disinterred. He exhumed and brought a body to court for judgment where he accused that corpse of perjury and then retroactively said, your papacy is declared null and void. So you're written out of history, except not all the way. That's weird, man. I used to think that I would, if, you don't know much about Bogomalism. They don't talk about them. But again, it was, they say it was the 10th century. So these people, I believe, came out right after what, take away the 1,000 years. They added 1,000 years. So it was at the beginning, somewhere in the part of Macedonia. They believe this is again what they said, dualists that believed in a world within the body. Now that sounds like me, and the world that's outside the body. And they didn't believe in the Christian cross so much, nor build churches, as they revered their gifted form and considered their body to be a temple. This gave rise to many forms of practice to cleanse oneself through fasting, dancing, sweat lodges, and mushroom ceremonies. That's name means dear to God. And I think, all of it, vast majority has been destroyed by the people who want you to not. They killed all the people that weren't straight up Trinitarians. And they weren't sorry about it. They're just not. One of the things, the Bogomils were, you could say anything you wanted about to them, even though one got thrown in jail 4 years after Armageddon. It wasn't until 2000 that people could actually see what they believed for themselves. And now people are all about going like, oh my goodness, this was absolutely crazy that they killed them. And just by reading it, I'm loving the Lord. I don't know if anybody said that. It is funny though that they were waiting on something that was going to, the only thing dates listed according to the data obtained, blah, 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 and from the text itself, where the year 999 occurs several times. And it is the only dates that are written in the margin. The wax codex was used in the first quarter of what they call the 11th century, and maybe even in the last. Remember, they added 1,000 years. And this is, you're just hearing about that. So they're older than these other, which I believe are non-Trinitarian gospels. Like the Quran is a hymnal. They say 30% of it is a hymnal from a non-Trinitarian. I don't want to say hymnal. There was another word for it. More scholarly. I'm trying to be scholarly. Brethren of the free spirit, who are they? Adherents of a loose set of beliefs deemed heretical, but held to by some Christians, especially here, between 13th and 15th centuries. Movement first identified in the late 13th century. Not a single movement or a school of thought, and it caused great unease among church leaders. They were called free spirits. Believed, ascribed to, is first to be found in this text put together by Albert the Great concerning a group of persons investigated in Swabian. There you go, Germany. The theme which occurred in these documents, which would emerge again in subsequent investigations, include autotheism. In other words, a belief that the perfected soul and God are indistinguishably one. Denial of the necessity of the church and its sacraments for salvation, such that austerity and reliance on Holy Spirit was believed to be sufficient. I have no idea what and they believed in no law. Antinomianism is any view which rejects laws and legalism. They were against preachers, elders, people like what I'm aspiring. I want to be a bishop. The Bible says that it's a good thing for a man to aspire to be a bishop. Well, okay. Where do I sign up? Oh, I got to be elected? Well, hey, I'm running. Vote for me. when we have a vote, if we have a vote. Ever have a vote? You ever voted? It's been a while for me. Buddha heresy. I just wanted to say Buddha. It's not like the double D Buddha. Like your religion ends in duh. Just kidding. This Valdenese. I used to think that, I think that my family line goes back to here. You came into conflict, declared heretical, burned alive. But these actually got big for a while, very big, even went on, moved out. Modern knowledge of the medieval history of the Valdensians originate almost exclusively from the records and writings of the Roman Catholic Church, the same body that was condemning them as heretics. Their records come from also Fox's Book of Martyrs. And usually it says, we put these people to death. That's why they have the documents. They destroyed everything else. They saw themselves as a church within a church. That'll get you dead. That'll get you ostracized real quick. Look at these. You can get slides on math, exploring the beauty and logic of geometry, lessons, tutorials, problem-solving resources. Embark on a geometric journey to the land of the Incas, Machu Picchu, Cusco, and Nazca lines. This is for 8th graders in foreign country. I've translated it. So they have, maybe it's a high school. What's this one? Let a quadrilateral inscribed in a circle have diagonals that intersected at right angles. From the point where the diagonals intersect, draw perpendicular lines to each of the 4 sides of the quadrilateral. Oh, it's okay. Prove that the 4 points of the intersection lie at the vertices of the rectangle. Looks like a kite right now. And did you know that there was officially banning books in the Catholic Church way past 1917? All the way up until 1966. It wasn't until John F. Kennedy, the first Roman Catholic, that brought the religion with his sweeping, impressive visually, his funeral and all of his son saluting and his wife. So sad. So sad. I mean, it was sad. It's called the Index of Forbidden Books in not Latin, active until 1966. Banned thousands of books. Everything they study now about the people who were so smart, nobody, the guys that could prove, hey, look, it works geocentric or heliocentric. They couldn't read them back then. Into the 1950s. The wide road perpetrators, the Roman Catholic Church, the Rosicrucians, the John Birch Society, they're doing this. This is going to happen. We're not going to fix it. It is time to hunker down on the flat earth nation with its golden age past, because the mud flood was Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriba dirty. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakaman. Adios, amigos.